Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. If you're into photography, especially if you're thinking about Micro Four Thirds or even just, curious about the future of cameras, this one's for you. Today we've got a whole bunch of articles, and they're all about the future of Panasonic's Micro Four Thirds system, looking ahead to 2025. And let me tell you, there's some surprises in here.
Oh, yeah, definitely a lot to unpack, and not all of it is straightforward.
Exactly. So just to, get everyone on the same page, Micro Four Thirds, it's a camera sensor format. It's known for being, really compact and portable. Panasonic is a major player in this, and a lot of photographers love them for travel street photography, all sorts of things. But the big question we're looking at is, will 2025 be a year of, exciting new releases from Panasonic, or will it be a little bit of a letdown for Micro Four Thirds fans? The articles we've got are kind of a mixed bag, so get ready because we're going to break it all down.
Right away, we see some good news. The GH7 came out in 2024, and it got a really positive reception. That's a good sign that Panasonic isn't just, abandoning the Micro Four Thirds system.
Yeah, the GH7 definitely got people's attention. And there's a lot of buzz going around about the possibility of new models in their compact GM and GF lines coming out in 2025. This is especially interesting for anyone who loves those smaller, lighter cameras, right? Portability is a big deal for a lot of people.
Absolutely, and it's important to remember that even with full frame and APS-C systems becoming so popular, compact cameras are still a big market. Lots of photographers out there prioritize portability, but they don't want to give up image quality, and that's where Micro Four Thirds really shines.
Okay, so far so good. But here's where things get a little more complicated. One thing that's really missing is any news or even rumors about new lenses for 2025. Now, if you're not deep into the camera world, that might not seem like a big deal, but
Yeah.
it's actually pretty unusual, and it has some Micro Four Thirds users worried.
Yeah, you're right to point that out. A good lens ecosystem is really important for any camera system, and new lenses usually mean innovation and more choices for photographers. So this silence from Panasonic is definitely making people wonder what's going on.
It makes you think, do they think their current lens lineup is good enough? Or are they missing a chance to keep Micro Four Thirds users, engaged and excited about the system?
That's the interesting part. It could be a little of both. Maybe they really believe their current lenses are good enough for most people, and to be fair, they do have a pretty solid selection already. But it also makes you question their long-term plan for Micro Four Thirds. Are they putting in the effort to keep it competitive, or are they just letting it coast? That's what we don't know.
And to make things even more interesting, some industry experts are actually using the word bleak to describe what they think will happen to Micro Four Thirds in 2025. They're saying that this is based on what's happening now, not a guaranteed prediction, but bleak is not exactly the most encouraging word. What are these experts seeing that's making them so pessimistic?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the bigger picture of the camera market. Micro Four Thirds has some tough competition. Full frame and APS-C systems are getting most of the attention, and that usually means manufacturers are putting more money and effort into those systems. So it makes you wonder, where does Micro Four Thirds fit in with all of this?
Yeah, especially when you think about, profit for these companies. Full frame and APS-C systems are probably making more money, and that could be affecting how much they're willing to invest in Micro Four Thirds.
Exactly. It's a business at the end of the day. Micro Four Thirds has its advantages like the portability we talked about, but it might not be making as much money as those bigger sensor systems.
So does that mean Panasonic is shifting gears, focusing on things like AI and full frame, and maybe leaving Micro Four Thirds behind? I know that's something a lot of people are wondering about.
That's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, we don't have a clear answer right now. It's definitely possible. Every company has to make choices about where to put their resources. But we can't rule out a few other things either. Companies like to keep things quiet,
Yeah.
It's possible that Panasonic is just being strategic and not telling anyone what they're working on, or maybe there are some cool developments happening behind the scenes that we haven't heard about yet.
Okay, so there's still a chance for some surprises. But even if there aren't any big announcements in 2025, it doesn't necessarily mean the end for Micro Four Thirds, right? I mean, technology changes all the time, and what seems like a disadvantage today could be an advantage in the future.
Exactly. Think about computational photography. It's already having a huge impact with software and AI playing a bigger role in how images are created. Imagine a camera system that uses that technology to get amazing image quality from a physically smaller sensor.
So the camera is doing more of the work to create the image, which means you could have smaller and lighter gear without losing quality. That's pretty cool. But how realistic is that, especially with Micro Four Thirds? Could computational photography really make up for the smaller sensor size?
That's the question everyone's asking. And while it's still early, the potential is definitely there. Panasonic already has some AI features in their cameras, and if they keep investing in that area, they could be leading the way in this new world of computational photography.
That would be a game changer for Micro Four Thirds. But even beyond computational photography, there are other technologies that could change things too, right?
hmm
Like new sensor materials. What if we could capture light more efficiently and use even smaller sensors without sacrificing performance?
Now that's where things get really interesting. We're already seeing research into new types of sensors that could completely change how we take pictures. And if those advancements lead to smaller and more efficient sensors, it could open up all sorts of possibilities for Micro Four Thirds.
So even if 2025 is a quiet year for new cameras, the future of Micro Four Thirds could still be very bright. But let's bring this back to you, the listener. What does all of this mean for your photography? Should you wait for these future cameras, or is that just going to lead to disappointment?
It's a good question. It's fun to think about what the future might hold, but we have to remember that technology can be unpredictable. It's great to imagine these possibilities, but it's also important to make decisions based on the tools and technology we have right now.
Right. Don't put your photography life on hold, waiting for some amazing camera to come along.
Mm,
If you need a camera now, choose the one that fits your needs and your budget.
yeah.
But at the same time, be curious about what's coming next, and don't be afraid to try new things.
Exactly. Photography is always changing, and that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's go back to something we talked about earlier, the fact that compact cameras are still doing well, even with full frame and APS-C being so popular. Why do you think that is? What are the advantages of staying with a smaller system?
For a lot of photographers, size and weight are really important. They want a camera that's easy to carry around, whether they're traveling, shooting street photography, or just don't want to carry a lot of heavy equipment.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Mm.
Sometimes less is more, especially when you're out shooting all day. But it's not just about convenience, is it? Micro Four Thirds and other compact systems have shown that they can take really high-quality images.
Absolutely. The technology has gotten so good that sensor size isn't the only thing that determines image quality. Lenses, image processing, and other innovations all play a big part too.
So it's about finding the right balance between being portable and getting great performance. What are some other benefits that you think people often overlook when they're comparing camera systems?
One thing that people sometimes forget about is how many different lenses are available for Micro Four Thirds. Over the years, Panasonic and other companies have made a huge variety of lenses for almost every type of photography.
You're right. And a lot of those lenses are made specifically for the smaller Micro Four Thirds sensor, which means they can be smaller and lighter than lenses for full frame or APS-C cameras.
Exactly. And that brings us back to portability. A smaller camera with a smaller lens can open up new creative possibilities. It lets you be more discreet, get into tighter spaces, and shoot for longer without getting tired.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the future of Panasonic's Micro Four Thirds system, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? We've talked about a lot, from the lack of new lens announcements to the possibilities of new technologies, and I know it can be a lot to take in. What's the bottom line?
Well, the first thing is, even though there's some uncertainty, Micro Four Thirds isn't going away anytime soon. Panasonic is still supporting it, and there are a lot of photographers who love using it every day.
So for all the Micro Four Thirds users out there, no need to panic and sell all your gear just yet. But it's important to be realistic too. The fact that we're not hearing about new lenses and the fact that companies are focusing on other things like AI and full frame, it does raise some questions about the future of the system, not just for Panasonic, but for the whole industry.
It's a valid concern. Technology is always changing, and as new formats and technologies come out, it's possible that Micro Four Thirds might not see as much development in the future. But it's also important to remember that photography is a diverse field with different needs and preferences.
What one photographer might see as a problem, another photographer might see as a benefit. And that's something we should all remember when we're thinking about different camera systems.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's no perfect camera for everyone. It's about finding the system that works best for you, your style of photography, how much you can spend, and what you want to create.
So for those of you who are already using Micro Four Thirds, keep enjoying it. And for anyone who's thinking about switching over, weigh the pros and cons. It's about making a smart decision. And for everyone out there, whether you're a pro or just starting out, remember to have fun, experiment, and most importantly, keep shooting.
Well said. Photography is a great mix of art and technology, and there's always something new to learn.
Okay, we've looked at the trends, the potential downsides, and the reasons to be optimistic. But before we finish up, I want to leave you with one last thought, something to think about as you continue your photography journey. What if the future of photography isn't about the sensor size or what brand of camera you have? What if it's about something even bigger?
That's interesting. What are you thinking about?
What if the future of photography is really about the stories we tell, the emotions we create, and the connections we make through our photos? Those are things that go beyond any camera system or technology.
That's a good point. It reminds us that photography is really about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and capturing moments in time. The cameras and technology are important, but they're tools to help us do something much bigger, to capture the human experience.
I like that. So to all our listeners, whether you love talking about camera specs or you just like taking pictures, remember this, the real magic of photography happens when you connect with what you're photographing with your own vision and with the feelings you want to express.
Let technology help you be creative, but don't let it get in the way of what you want to say.
That's all for our deep dive today, everyone. We hope you found it interesting and helpful. And as always, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep creating. Until next time, happy shooting.
Yep.